3 to 87. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 6 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. The other day we had this somewhat questionable story, I suppose you could say, that the CIA had actually created these fake Osama bin Laden videos in the years before we captured and killed Osama bin Laden, and it makes you wonder how much of our lives is the tail wagging the dog. That's the title of that movie. That I just love that title because it says a lot. The tail wags the dog. We all respond to a few people manipulating us with news or fake news or whatever. You know, it happens in history, and you find out about things too late. Our next guest has written a novel in which, sometimes you have to do something about that.
Yeah.
When it turns out that the people who you thought were the good guys are really not the good guys. VIncent J. Sachar is on the phone. It says he's an attorney. I guess he's got both parts of his brain working, his creative part and his analytical part. He is a researcher, and that is why we've scheduled him to be on with us for longer than most novelists are. His book is called Nowhere Out. It is a thriller novel, but the amount of research involved in this book definitely impressed us, and hopefully it will impress you too. Vincent, good morning, Vincent. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for accepting. Where are you?
I am actually in South Florida in Broward County.
Oh, okay. And did I say your last name correctly, Sachar?
It's actually Sachar, as if it were Sacker.
Okay. Now I know. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. It says here that this is actually a sequel, huh?
It is actually a sequel. And the truth is, Larry, it was my original idea for a novel, but when I began writing it, I thought, gosh, I have enough backstory to do the first book and then do this one.
But the interesting thing, the story is well written, obviously, and you have a skill for telling a story. I got so many questions for you that have to do with about the book writing itself, but I wanted to ask you, and we'll get to them. We've got enough time today. But I was going to ask you about the research part of this. Did the research come because you had the idea for the story, or did the idea for the story come because you were doing some research?
Actually, I had the idea for the story, and then I began to research.
Wow. And did the research indicate to you that you needed to change the story?
No, not really. I just wanted to be sure that the background of this individual, being a decorated Navy SEAL, was accurate and a true depiction of his training, his background, who he is, what he does, how things are done, things of that nature.
Okay, so right now, at this point, the audience is confused. We didn't tell them enough. So this is a good point to allow you to give us like a movie trailer version of the story so they kind of know what this is about.
Okay, briefly then, Lieutenant Commander Kent Taylor is a decorated Navy SEAL, DevGru, formerly Team 6, who's overseas on a mission. He's injured, saves the lives of two of his fellow SEALs. But while he's over there, his wife, who is a prosecutor in New York, accidentally uncovers a scandal that's going to reach up into the government. Kent Taylor gets back to the United States, although he was abandoned, in a sense, not by the SEALs, but by a government that doesn't want to admit they had Special Forces soldiers across borders where they weren't supposed to be, which could be declared as an act of war. When Taylor comes back, he finds out his pregnant wife, his young son, and his in-laws are dead, purportedly as a result of an accidental home fire. He's absolutely devastated. But as he begins to look into it, he realizes it was not an accident. It was an intentional murder intended to cover up, to silence his wife because of the scandal she had begun to uncover. Now you have a man who's been stripped of everything he loves, everything he trusts, in a sense, a government for whom he had risked his life a number of times, and yet there are people from that government who are directly or indirectly responsible for the loss of his loved ones. And he has, from his perspective, no one to turn to. Who can I trust? Where do I go? And so this man, who was always a dangerous man, but never using his stealth and training other than to work on behalf of his government, he begins to take it upon himself to avenge the death of his loved ones.
Oh, wow. And yeah, I guess if we told any more, we'd be giving spoilers, whatever you call them, right?
Except to remember that in Nowhere Out now, this is years later, and he's a hidden man, a recluse, and then things begin to develop.
Does this novel stand alone from the first one?
Interestingly, yes, and I had hoped that was true. I've received some book reviews from different sources, some of which really surprised me. And I was very pleased to see that they were saying, though it's a sequel, this book stands alone.
So in the research, did you find anything that mirrored this, that seemed similar to this?
No, not really. I think my research was just mainly trying to get a feel for how things are done, what's the background, not only with SEALs, but with the FBI, New York State government, how things are done, things of that nature.
Okay. The state government, what role did the state government play?
It's going to be the fact that there is a investigation that's been set up, a commission by the New York governor, and interestingly, I hit upon a statute that is being invoked currently by Governor Cuomo. I had no idea that would happen. And so as this commission is beginning to investigate, they're finding scandal within government again, and they've hired a professional killer to try to dissuade people from in any way testifying or being involved in the commission. And this thing begins to explode. But the thing about this killer is he's showing incredible skills, such as Taylor showed years before.
And do you feel that this is somewhat mirroring the sentiment of the American people of today, that when the military is returning home, that they're not to be trusted?
Not so much that. I think it's mirroring the fact that sometimes, look, the greatness of our country is not that we're always perfect, but that somehow we will get out of whatever we've done or are doing that may not be true to our principles. In this case, it's the fact that this man has been stripped of everything, and there is the fact that a government he worked for and put his life at stake for has not come through for him on a personal basis, and he has nowhere to turn.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories around the Kennedy assassination that hints that the CIA, FBI were involved with that. And I'm not saying I buy into them, but they are out there. And the same thing with the 9/11 attacks. If we ever found out that any of that was really true, how could you blame somebody who had the resources, especially if his own family was killed? How could you blame him from wanting to do something that would be vengeful?
And that's the interesting point, Larry, because I've been asked, is it ever ethical, moral, justifiable for someone to perpetrate, be involved in revenge killings, take the law into their own hands? And I've said, no, it is not, but it is sometimes understandable. There's something in us that says, my gosh, if that happened to me, I might want to do the same thing if I could. If that happened to me, perhaps it's one of those what ifs. What would I do? And that's kind of behind the theme of what happens here.
Vincent, we take a little break for the weather, but we'll be back. Vincent J. Sachar is on the phone. He's an attorney somewhere in South Florida, and he's written this awesome novel called Nowhere Out. And now we know we have to get number one, the first one as well. You don't have to get it, but I mean, it just sounds interesting enough. We'll be right back, Vincent, and we'll continue. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Variable cloudiness today with some showers and thunderstorms, most widespread and heaviest in the afternoon, the high 84 to 88. Mostly cloudy tonight with a shower or thunderstorm, low 69 to 73. clouds and some sun tomorrow with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm around, mainly in the afternoon, high 83 to 87. For Wednesday, periods of clouds and sun with a thunderstorm in the afternoon, the high 83 to 87. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Frederick's Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Frederick's Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Frederick's Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Frederick's Appliance.
News Talk 1370 WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults. So use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000. 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370 WOCA.
Hey, I'm Gary.
And I'm Eric. Did you know that Red Eye Radio is on WOCA The Source every night from 2 to 6 a.m. and it's live?
That's right. No tape shows here.
We know that the news doesn't sleep.
And neither do we. So we're here with you live from 2 till 6 a.m. every weekday. Call us 866-90-RED-EYE. So join me, Gary McNamara.
And me, Eric Harley, every weeknight to discuss the latest in news and entertainment.
Right here on WOCA The Source.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my
too.
seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line and a new spoiler and a new
Yep,
trunk.
we can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
All right, 17 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Vincent Sachar is on the phone. He's written a novel called Nowhere Out. It's a thriller novel, and his protagonist is Kent Taylor. And he's basically fighting the people who once paid him, I guess, biting the hand that fed him anyway. It's similar in, not the storyline is not similar. It's much better than the Rambo series. But I mean, Rambo was also kind of out to get revenge. It's kind of that kind of story. Do you think this would be made into a movie?
You know, I hear that a lot from people saying this book sounds like a movie, reminds them of a movie. I get that constantly. And I think part of that, Larry, is because when I write, I see what I write. I'm there. I mean, that's just my style. And it maybe it comes across in such a way that the reader is seeing it also. Like, hey, this would be a movie. You know, this could be. So it's that type of a thing.
Yeah.
Well, you do have humor in your book. Even the part where you introduce the new character, Kate.
Right. Yes. And I enjoy that too. And someone asked me, well, how do you go from one to another? And you just enter into the personalities of the people that you're portraying in your book, and meet that scene. Try to be there, so to speak. You know, when I read, I'm inside the book. I'm there. You know, my wife will come in and interrupt me, and it's like I'm, spooked. I say, what's that? And she said, excuse me, I live here.
Yeah.
You know? And I say, yeah, but baby, when I'm reading, I'm inside the book. And when I write, I do the same thing.
But that does not take away his feelings for his family that have been murdered, because she becomes an ally.
Exactly. And she's gone through a similar thing. She's a widow. So because of that, she understands hurt and loss too.
The book is called Nowhere Out. Vincent Sachar is our guest. And Vincent, I'm trying to go to your website. Is it yourname.com, Vincent Sachar?
It is. It's vincentsachar.com. I can tell you as you go, I call it Wyborn Creations, based upon a quote by Mark Twain, where he says, the two greatest days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. And whatever writing is to me, it's something that's inside of me. It's kind of one of my Wyborns. And I began to reach in and pull it out and found something I really, really loved.
I think work as an attorney, and we haven't really touched on that yet, but I think work as an attorney requires any good attorney anyway, to be analytical, you have to question everything and analyze everything. That lends itself, I think, well to a novelist.
Very, very well put, Larry, because there's two things. One is that, I mean, when I would practice, for example, corporate in-house, I would live in the what-ifs. When I would say to my corporate colleagues, listen, you have to be sensitive that if this happens, this could be our liability. There's a what if. Well, that may never happen. I know, but what if? And that's part of it. And the second is, as attorneys, we deal with language and expression, and that's part of what happens when you're writing a book. You're dealing with language.
So you grew up in New York, went to school in New Orleans, and I'm trying to hear either accent. I don't hear the New York, and I don't hear the New Orleans.
I left New York to go to undergrad in New Orleans, back to New York, graduated a law school there. But then, we lived in Illinois, we lived in Texas, so, my wife and I have been around, so to speak, so maybe I don't have quite that accent anymore. She is Cajun French from southern Louisiana. I'm from New York. I kid that we needed an interpreter the first 3 years of our marriage.
I love the conversation that the different characters have in your book, because it's not all descriptive or narrative. You actually feel like you're part of the story, like you alluded to early on.
Going back to the thing you said, because I noticed on your website it says why born. Going back to that, I love that, by the way. But I'm wondering about, like, if I was to ask myself, why was I born? And there was a part of me that wanted to literally kill somebody who may have killed my family, God forbid. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I could justify saying that's why I was born to kill people who, you know what I mean?
I do. I think why born is more like arts, music, writing, maybe even traveling. There's something in me that I've always wanted to do. It's always kind of been there in my craw, even if I didn't enter that particular profession. And one day I reach in and find it, and I find, oh, this is something I feel like I was meant to do, something I've always wanted to do. It may not be the only thing in your life. I've not regretted that I've had a career in law, but when I've touched this, it's like, whoa, what is this? I love doing this. It's that type of thing.
Do you still practice law?
I am still employed. I work for a global consulting company. Before that, my practice was primarily corporate in-house.
Uh-huh.
You really had to do a lot of research, though, not just into the workings of the FBI and CIA, but also into the Navy SEALs. And they're kind of a close-knit group. They don't like to let outsiders in, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to do the best I could with what I could. And again, another goal was I have such a respect for the Navy SEALs that, someone could say, you're going to have a Navy SEAL who becomes a revenge killer, a serial killer. And I thought, but when I finish, you're going to look at this man and you're going to understand him. And to tell you the truth, you're going to like him. And I put a dynamic between this character, Ken Taylor, and the Chief FBI Special Agent Bill Gladding, and something happens between these two men, both of whom are stellar in their character, in their career, and what they've done in their different roles.
So, in trying to look deep into the soul of a character, even if it is somebody you created, you're looking deep into this person, and you're seeing reasons. You're seeing motivation. You're seeing the why born in that person, the person that you gave birth to, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Does it help you or affect the way that you hear the news? I've thought this often about doing the news. When we read the news, it's almost like a better insight into the people behind the news, and you have to wonder again, who's really controlling who?
Oh, definitely. There's no question about it. None. And I think many of us in our country feel that today.
When horrendous things happen, do you think that murder is justifiable on the revenge side of it?
Again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, and I felt this way back in the beginning. I remember a case in Germany where a young boy was sexually molested and killed. And during the trial, the father was in the courthouse and did have a pistol and did take his gun and did shoot the defendant and kill him. And something inside of you says, no, I'm not saying that's lawful. I'm not saying that's proper. But boy, I sure do understand it. I can understand why someone would do that and feel that. And part of me thinks, yeah.
There's a story that circulates on the internet, and I didn't look it up to see if it was true, but apparently the story goes that there was a bad guy. I can't think of a better word than bad guy. A bad guy was caught, and it's portrayed as a true story. And then he gets into a fight and he shoots and kills one of the police officers, and then he runs into the woods. Well, the police officers that find him open fire on him, and he gets shot 68 times. So the police officers who shot and killed him, rather than just apprehending him, are now in court, and the judge says, why did you shoot him 68 times? Why was he shot 68 times? And the guy says, because that's all the bullets I had.
Yeah.
And it's that same kind of a thing. I mean, these guys were basically trying to get revenge for one of their own having been knocked out. And I don't know if that's a true story or not, but it kind of says the same kind of a thing.
Yes, in a way it does. Again, it's not like we're justifying, but we're saying, I can understand
Understandable.
Why someone would feel that, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so that maybe that's what keeps us on edge with this particular story. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in favor of this. You know what it's like for me? It's like when we have the debate about the death penalty. If I'm debating it in a diplomatic way or whatever, I'm against it. No, it's not civil to be killing somebody who killed somebody. That's just not civil. But when you tell me about a specific person who's about to be executed, and then you tell me what he did to a child or to a woman or to anybody, then I'm all in favor of it. I'm a very hypocritical person when it comes to the death penalty discussion.
That's an excellent analogy, and I honestly could say I feel the same way. There are times I've said, well, and you might kill the wrong person, and then I hear of a situation and I think, that person deserves to die. So it's exactly right.
Wow. Is there going to be a third book?
I am actually working on a third book. I have about 6 chapters written, and I have a kind of a sense of where I'm going with it. Some of the same characters, of course. Kent Taylor will be in it, Bill Gladding and Jonas Blair, and already having a lot of fun with it. I've written, believe it or not, a fantasy novel. The only thing is when I wrote it, it was 260,000 words, and then I looked up how long a novel should be. So I thought, well, I've got some work to do on that. And then I have another novel that just popped into my head, and I'm just being careful, but I do have a third in this series that I'm working on.
Well, this one is called Nowhere Out. For the listeners, I think you will enjoy it. If you want the copy that Vincent sent us, you may have it. You have to call me to ask for it. I'll put your name on it and leave it here for you. The rest of us have to go buy it. The website is VincentSachar.com. Let me spell it. Vincent is the way you normally spell Vincent. Sachar is Sachar, Sachar. Is the book on Amazon and all the other places?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
In both digital ebook and paperback.
And paper. Okay, excellent.
This is such a wonderful, wonderful read, and there's not blood and gore. It's very thrilling and very mysterious. So you've done an excellent job, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It's an intelligent book. I think. I think you've really dealt with something very analytical in this book. You find yourself analyzing your own self as you read this book. Vincent, thank you for being on the air with us today.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed the time together. I really appreciate it.
And definitely come back with the other book. If you're in Central Florida, by the way, let's do the interview in the studio.
I would love that. I will do that. Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.